So it is a privilege for me to kind of talk, I guess, on behalf of small to medium-sized businesses. As Graham said, I have worked in a big corporate environment, surrounded by corporate credit cards and smart people and lots and lots of important meetings. And I believe that it's actually much harder to drive initiatives across a smaller business, such as health and safety. It's a really challenging environment. You have to chase the work, you have to price the work, your wife has to do the books at night. You have to manage your staff, including your mother-in-law that's not doing the filing properly. So it is a really tough environment, and to throw health and safety into that mix is a big ask. So I just wanted to talk a little bit today about our journey both as a business and in terms of the health and safety, the culture that we've managed to instill in our business, because I believe, as we've just talked about, anyone can do it and you can start any time you want. And if we can do it, you can do it. So this is us in the early days. We were keen, but we had absolutely no idea about health and safety. We did have our off-the-shelf safety pack, so we thought we had it sorted. As we went on, we started tendering for slightly larger jobs, and we had to put proposals in, and I'd very happily announce that we had 0 near misses. And I look back in horror at kind of some of the things that we thought we were doing well. And it's probably taken us, I don't know, a good 4 to 5 years, I guess. I mean, this is actually a much older photo, but kind of to go from that sort of attitude to where we are today, I think it's probably taken us a good 4 or 5 years. And although I think now with a lot of the toolkits and the drive from people like the Safety Charter and some of the initiatives that are out there, then personally I think you can kind of shortcut that to, I don't know, maybe 2 years to really go to get to the point that we've got to. But again, I would actively encourage you just to start with the basics and start today. So, whoops. So aside from the stress and the hassles and the mother-in-law, I loved going out on my own. I think I was unemployable from day one, and for me, growing the business the way it has and where we've got to across the business, not only in terms of growth and revenue and staff numbers and all that kind of stuff, but the culture for me is one of the things that I'm most proud of, and alongside that and integral with that is the health and safety culture. The journey started, I guess, as I say, 4 or 5 years ago, but probably largely around the time that we had Christina come on board. And they were the 3 things that we picked as the areas that we thought we had to work on as a small business, and we were a relatively small business at that stage, to really drive health and safety. We knew that we had to do something around health and safety in terms of the plans that we had for the business, but it was actually something that we really wanted to do. After the earthquakes, we decided that we wanted to seize the opportunity and become a leader in changing the health and safety culture and attitude across Canterbury. So Christina's done a fantastic job there on our behalf, but certainly as a business, that's something we really strive for. So as you can see, leadership, we hear a lot about leadership all the time, so that was an obvious place for us to start. Staff, they're obviously an integral part of our business, so we knew that we had to involve the staff along the way, and probably 70 to 80% of what we do on site is actually other people coming onto our site. So we knew with the Subbies as the biggest part of that group, we had to start there as well. So in terms of the leadership, or I guess the top-down approach, aside from being an evil employer, I'm also a person, or a great human being, as Christina keeps telling me. And so for me, it's just personally quite important, or very important, to drive a safe business. I'd be horrified if anyone was seriously hurt on our sites without actually feeling like we'd done our absolute best to avoid that. So I think that anyone at any level understands the importance of keeping your people safe. It's just consciously bringing that to the forefront when you've got all those other things that you have to deal with as a small business owner. The whole cornerstone of our business plan and the growth path of our business, at the end of the day, always went back to the people. We always thought that that was the key to growing our business, and that was the key to providing good service to our customers. And it actually took me a little while to click onto this, but I realised after a while that the way that we were trying to drive a change in health and safety culture across the business was actually just the same way that we were trying to drive being an employer of choice. So all the things about attracting staff, you know, one of the things people actually care about is they're coming to work in a place that looks after you and cares for you and wants to make sure you're safe when you go home at the end of the day. The retention, again, if people tell you that it's all about the money and it's only about the money, then they're lying. There's a whole lot of stuff that goes into retaining good staff in a business. And again, the health and safety culture is part of a broader culture that I believe really attracts people and retains people in our business. And the training, obviously, and it is ongoing. It's time and time again. It's repetition. It's, you know, you hear of yet another, something's happened on site and rolling your sleeves up and starting all over again. And over time it gets there, but there is a lot of training that goes into it. It makes good business sense. So if you don't need any other reason, it's been fantastic for our business. We knew for our business that we had to turn our business from just work turning up the door through whatever means, and we'd price it and some of it we'd win and we'd deliver. And we had to change that to being a lot more proactive in our go-to-market strategy. So what we decided to do was kind of narrow our focus down to fewer but larger organisations and get alongside them to help them grow our business, both within Christchurch and now nationally. And any decent organisation out there, if they were a bit slow off the mark, they now realise that health and safety is an absolute key part of what they're looking for out of any business that they're working in partnership with. So without that, we wouldn't be going anywhere as a business. So in terms of the people, one simple thing that's actually worked incredibly well is putting health and safety at the top of all meeting agendas, and that's anything from a board meeting through to a site meeting. And I've got to be honest, I was actually quite surprised at how effective this was, because I think you'll find that as soon as you start bringing it to the forefront of the meetings that you have in your business, and like it or not, we have an awful lot of meetings, it starts driving the conversation at all different levels of the business, and eventually it actually starts driving some action out of that. So if you want to start with the basics and you want to start with something really simple, for me that was a fantastic tool just to get the conversation going and just to start getting some buy-in from the business, and eventually it'll start culminating in some action. Make safety a key responsibility of all staff. So we're at a size now where we actually have a health and safety officer. And one of the key things though is making sure that everyone just doesn't dump everything on the health and safety officer. So to start with, we had a bit of an attitude where no one had to take responsibility because one person within the business, that was their job, that was what they did. And for me and for our business, our health and safety person is a facilitator. They're the person that kind of drives the training and provides the support and all that kind of stuff. But again, a big leap forward for us was actually making people responsible right across the business, and it was a key part of their job description. It wasn't really until some of that sort of stuff started happening that we actually, if we weren't getting buy-in, then we were having to start to try and force the buy-in through people actually taking accountability for the health and safety themselves. Training, educating. Again, just time and time again, I believe a key thing for a smaller business is to keep it simple. You're at risk of overwhelming you guys and girls if you try and dump too much on them. And I think in our enthusiasm to drive health and safety, the risk is we try and do too much of it, and at a certain point it stops going in. So if you're a smaller business, the key I think is to keep it simple. And again, there are some fantastic simple tools out there on like the Safety Charter website that you can pick up, and you can take the basics and use those to implement across your business and keep it really simple for the people within your business, and just keep doing it time and time again, and eventually you'll gain some traction. The health and safety reps, or in our case the health and safety rep, again, it's one of those roles that if you're not careful, it can be seen as a role to get around. It can be seen as a role to try and fob off, and it's really important as an owner or as a manager of the business that these people are given that position of pride and they're empowered to make decisions and really drive health and safety across the business. Whether it's a dedicated person or whether you've got a person within your business who has that as a part-time role, you really need to make sure that they are put to the forefront and they are given the power to drive health and safety across the business. Otherwise, the role won't work and you're wasting your money. It'll just be seen as a role to get around. Subbies, that would be our biggest challenge at the moment. So we're starting to get there, but I think for us and for Christchurch generally, it's probably where we've started to turn our attention, and I would suggest is probably one of the biggest risk areas for health and safety in Canterbury at the moment. Again, I think there's a great willingness and a great buy-in, but often they're smaller businesses, often they're faced with the challenges of putting food on the table and everything else they're dealing with across the board, as well as health and safety. For us, we've tried to kind of take the stick and the carrot approach. With the stick approach, there is a minimum standard that we've set and made no bones about it. I think initially we were at risk of going too far. Initially we were at risk of trying to push health and safety to the point where our subbies just couldn't cope with it. They weren't buying into it, or eventually they would go and work for someone else. So we knew we had to try and find that balance between the non-negotiables, the minimum standard, and instill those and start with those and then try and work from there. So you can see the list up there, which is our no work standards. The pre-qualifications and the inductions. The pre-qualification, I guess for our size, shape and size, we're at the point where we can actually have someone or part of a person dedicated to a proper pre-qualification process. I wouldn't have said that maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So, that's one of those things I think you'd have to think about, the shape and size and stage you get to, but where you can actually realistically bring that in and actually be able to manage it properly. Again, if you're not managing it properly, then in my view it's a waste of time and you're better focusing elsewhere. The inductions, though, I think are another non-negotiable. So it's been a key part of getting the buy-in, getting the understanding, getting the training for the subbies as they're coming into our businesses and as they're coming onto our sites. And I feel that that's actually been one of the key things that has I hope has prevented a lot of accidents on site. Bring them on the journey. So the carrot, I guess what we've tried to do, and at varying degrees of success, is to try and pull our subbies or our supply chain into our business. So we have managed to grow our business reasonably well over the years, and we've tried to actually bring them in and come along with us for the journey. And I feel that if we can kind of get involved with our supply chain and vice versa, that we can only both benefit from that. And I feel that as a business and the markets that we're targeting, we can offer some great opportunities to our subbies if they can kind of buy into that, or if they will buy into that. And I think for them to buy into that, we've realised that we actually have to give a lot back and really open ourselves up to open up the kimono to our business and take some criticism and try and make some improvements to kind of help that interaction happening a lot closer. Health and safety is only a part of that, but it is a big important part for us. So trying to take the supply chain along for the ride, I think, is a really key part of trying to lift the health and safety standard with the subbies. So I guess Graham's let the cat out of the bag. You could probably argue that I might have a bit of business experience and a bit of business sense to grow a business and really drive health and safety. But I've got a lot of friends and a lot of people from the corporate world who have gone out on their own and have failed along the way. There's some horrendous stat like 80% of businesses fail in the first 5 years. So I don't believe I have any greater or less advantage over growing my business and driving a good health and safety culture than anyone else out there in the room and anyone else out there in the marketplace. So I don't see that as an excuse or a reason not to do it. I think, as I say, the categories up there that we've started with, the leadership, the team culture and the subbie performance have been the boxes that we've found successful. I guess the way that we've tried to package it up. For us, it has been a real winner. As I say, as we've got up there, we have started winning some awards and we have started meeting some great standards. It's something I'm really, really proud of. So I'm hoping that I've tried to fast track some of the thinking out there for some of the small businesses. It's not a necessary evil in my view. It's actually been fantastic for my business, and I think it's been an integral part of our success and an integral part of our growth. It's actually driven a lot of benefits outside of the pure health and safety across the wider business as well. So thank you.